In this video, we're going to talk about two heroes that are unlisted heroes that are probably going to be added to Deadlock very soon. One of them being Astro, and the other one being Calico. And before we actually look at the characters, I'm actually going to show you how you can actually play them right now in the game. You actually boot up Deadlock, you go into a sandbox mode itself, you'll press F7, you'll then type a couple of words, you'll type select, if I actually know how to spell, hero, as one word, no spaces, then you'll do space, hero underscore, and for these two characters, you're either going to type in hero underscore Astro for the cowgirl, or hero underscore Nano for Calico, which is the cat girl. We're going to first look at Astro, because I do think this character is very interesting, and she also has a high likelihood of being added tonight. Starting with Powder Keg. Place a barrel that explodes when shot or on landing after launched via a melee attack or bounce pad. Has a minimum arm time before it can explode. And we're actually going to test out all the abilities without any upgrades, and then we'll test them with everything. We're also going to turn on no cooldowns, just cause I don't want anyone to watch. So yeah, you can roll out a barrel, and you can shoot it after so much time. So if you roll it out, you can't shoot it now, but then right after the arming time. Let's move on to the second ability, which is Bounce Pad. Drop a bounce pad in the world that sends you and other heroes flying. You'll stomp down on landing, dealing damage to any nearby heroes.
Time to go flying.
So I believe that anyone can actually use that jump pad itself. So if I actually had like a teammate enemy, I'm pretty sure they could actually use this. I'm gonna drop a jump pad
down.
or a bouncing pad. Slam on this enemy, and it does a little bit of damage. It barely does any damage. It's like half of a bar. Moving on to the third ability, Hat Trick. Throw out her hat to strike enemies, slowing and revealing them through walls. You just throw your hat. And so if I go over here, I can see that person through the wall. And it also slows them down. So this is a really good ability. If someone's trying to run away, now you can catch up with them and beat them up. And finally, moving on to Astro's ult, which is Spirit Lasso. Grab an enemy with your lasso and drag them along behind you. The enemy is stunned and Astro is slowed slightly during the lasso. Lasso duration is paused for 2 seconds during the first usage of a bounce pad. I'm actually going to brain an enemy over here, and we'll show it off. So I'm going to show off the ult right here.
They're tied up.
So you just grab an enemy, you can brain them in, and this is actually like a really good idea. You just brain them into your Guardian. So early game, the ult's going to be insane. Late game, I really don't know. It could be really good to grab an enemy, brain them into your teammates, and then they can CC stun this enemy too on top of it. We're going to talk about all the upgrades now. Powder Keg, +1 charge, +140 explosion damage, minus 9.5 cooldown, no arm time. For the bounce pad, at tier 1, you have you and allies gain a 4 meters per second, like movement speed bonus for 4 seconds on landing, which is nice. 100 stomp damage with improved scaling. That's crazy. 1.25 stun on stomp, which is nice. Moving on to Hat Trick, you get +50 damage at tier 1, minus 9.5 seconds cooldown at tier 2, plus 30% movement slow at tier 3. And then finally onto the ult, you have at tier 1 plus 0.6 seconds duration. At tier 2, you have minus 56 seconds cooldown. At tier 3, you have can lasso another enemy inside targeting area. You can use a Powder Keg and Bouncing Pad together to actually hit enemies in the air, like Ray Talon or Vindicta that are flying, or even probably Abrams, who's just using his ult. The escape, you can just use that.
Ready to get some airtime.
And then you can follow up. Wherever that explodes, you can just follow on top and then hit them with a little bit of damage and then punch them in the face. This character seems very fun. It seems like the bouncing pad's going to allow you to move around very quickly. And if someone's still escaping you and still outrunning you, you can hit them with a Powder Keg and catch them on fire and throw your hat at them too, doing a little bit of damage. So if people are running away from you, you can attack them. And if people are chasing you, you just grab them with your ult and go, okay. You hit them like so. This character's gonna be very fun. This character's really cool. Astro Ideas. I hope for one of these characters to be added, but moving on to Calico. The newest character, Calico. Her abilities are a Sekhmet Spirit. Send a Spirit Cat forward that grabs the target in its way. Grabbing a hero will cause an explosion soon after. Press 1 to manually create an explosion. this is what it looks like. So I'm gonna stand far back. Shoot a cat. Grab the enemy. Boom! My explodey's up in the air. The two abilities, Pounce, leap at a target to inflict light melee damage and slow on nearby enemies. You may use Pounce on a second target if used within 3 seconds. So I'm gonna spawn in an Infernus 2. So I can land on this guy, and if he's nearby, I can also attack him with the Pounce. It's on a 23-second cooldown. Shadow Step. Bathe yourself in shadow to strengthen your attacks and make your dashes invisible. Hitting enemies with melee damage will reduce their bullet resist stacking. So it's pretty cool. So this is how it works. Anytime you roll, you're basically invisible. And then you can punch too. That also just reduces the bullet resist. Her ult is Ava. Deploy Ava to focus on a nearby enemy. Targeted enemies have reduced healing and heal Ava and Calico when damaged. Ava is only active when Calico is nearby. Press 3 to recall the ability. Alt cast a recall and warp to Ava. The further away from Ava, the longer the recall/warp will take. Ava regains health while recalled. So anyone within this giant field is going to be taking some damage. You can actually just warp to her. But she is gone. This is what she essentially does. She's just like a mini guardian that can chip people down. It's pretty cool. Now let's look at all of it maxed out. At tier 1 for Segment Spirit is plus 4 meters explosion radius, minus 11.5 seconds cooldown at tier 2, plus 120 explosion damage at tier 3. Moving on to the Pounce ability, plus 1 slow duration at tier 2, reloads up to 20% of your ammo and applies 30% fire rate slow. At tier 3, plus 60 damage and 1 ability charge. Shadow Step, at tier 1, it's plus 30% stamina recovery. At tier 2, it's plus 40% slow resist while active. At tier 3, its heavy melee attacks cause silence for 3 seconds. Ava's tier 1 is plus 21% lifesteal. At tier 2, it's plus 40% DPS, and victims deal minus 20% less damage to Calico. And then at tier 3, plus 35% damage amplification and minus 30% heal reduction on victims. So I'm going to waste an entire clip. Now I'm going to get up close. Yeah, so if you're closer, you do about 2.25 more. So this character is actually a close range character, which is very interesting. So I actually just wanted to bring that up. And so the idea is going to be essentially if you are far away, you can kind of sneak up on an enemy, hit them with your 1, pull them into your guardian, explode them there, and now up in the air, you can just dash on top of them and attack them again. If you're right on top of an enemy, let's spawn another Infernus right here. If you're very close to an enemy, you can shoot him a little bit, pounce, and if there's another enemy right next to him, you can simultaneously actually go after him as well. The Shadow Step ability is pretty interesting. You're just going to be dodging, so if you have to get away really quickly, you can just spam a bunch of dodges, and now they don't know where you are. If I have to actually secure distance between me and this Infernus, I can pop my 3, roll twice, now I'm on top of him, punch him, and now I'm right here on top of him. And then I can use the Pounce 2 to get him, and if he's already running away, I can take him and do a little bit more damage. And she also has a cat on her shoulder. The only thing that's pretty bad about this character is that her heavy animation, the cat is bugged, like so. The cat is clipping into my shoulder, which is funny. I can see Calico being added because this character itself got changed like within the past 2 weeks that actually have all of her abilities updated, and actually her abilities work now, because 2 weeks ago I was trying out the characters, or 2 or 3 weeks ago, I actually don't know exactly, but I was trying out this character specifically, and the Ava ult didn't actually do damage. It just stood completely still. It was a gray statue. It didn't have any textures. It looked more like Ivy's like stone formation than anything. It had the shape. It just had different textures.
The new era is coming.
They added all this information that's written here. They actually expanded upon what the abilities are called. So I feel like if they're doing all this work, I feel like they're going to push out the character very quickly compared to Astro. It's all biased, but I could see either one of these characters being added like within like a month or 2. So yeah, that's it.